Hello, and welcome to my Corporate Leaders Speaker Series on the theme of thriving through crisis and finding your personal renaissance. This is Maida Pak, life and career coach for executives in fast-paced industries. And today's guest is Chico Matenda. Chico is a creative entrepreneur, content creator, and online course creator within the social media and digital marketing sectors. Chico, thank you very much for accepting this invitation and for being part of this project. Before we delve more into your mission and what you would like to convey to the people who are watching, can you first tell us a bit more about yourself?
Thank you, Maida, first of all, for the invite. And I really feel honored to be here and to contribute to the great work that you're doing. So just a little bit about me. I am a Brit Malawian and consider myself a global citizen due to my upbringing and growing up in different countries. I consider the UK home, US, Malawi, and I've also lived briefly in Switzerland, and I enjoy traveling. And that's how my life has panned out so far in terms of becoming a digital nomad. It's due to my upbringing. There's always that saying that when you connect the dots looking back, something makes sense along the way. It all adds up, and it has led me to what you have described there as a creative entrepreneur. And I used to work in the corporate sector and also in the public sector with local government in management and leadership roles up to 2016. So wow. That's a little bit about me.
Well, yes, and we have a lot in common in terms of traveling throughout the world. One of the things that we have been discussing about is finding your own personal signature, your own personal renaissance through crisis. And I have been following you on Instagram for a certain time. And I encourage everybody who is watching, whether you're a coach or you are in a corporate setting, just follow Chico, because she always have very good, very actionable, easy to follow steps. So please follow. I will put your Instagram handle on the bottom of this email. But before we go to that, can you tell me a bit more about how do you define your mission in life?
I think my definition of my mission encompasses the life challenging and changing circumstances that I've experienced, which led me to discovering my greater purpose why, and also my life purpose in life. I think prior to that, I was blinded by a lot of things, going through the normal education route, going into a career, and then life-changing circumstances led me to being connected to Malawi and to supporting younger girls as I had this vision. They were just like a reflection of me. So through them, I see me, and my greatest vision is to, and I've been doing a little bit of work around that as well, is to contribute to supporting girls in Malawi to achieve their greatest potential. So that's being able to also fulfill their life vision, their mission in life, and to contribute to adding to more social value in their own community, as well as sustainable development. And also realizing that they don't need to travel the world. Well, they can, but there's also digital means to be able to fulfill their greatest potential, to be able to connect globally with the world. So without having any limitations.
That's a very inspiring way of being a role model as well, because sometimes we think that we need to go through a series of crises and then we will find the light at the end of the tunnel, and we call that the purpose. And in reality, our purpose can be something much closer to home and something that we can find inside of ourselves. So the definition of purpose can be very wide. Wild, more exactly.
Definitely.
One of the things as well that I wanted to discuss with you is you talked about life challenges that led you to the point where you discovered, gee, I don't need to travel the whole world. I don't need to be anything extraordinary. What I am is a great teacher, and I am an example, and I can go and talk to these girls and get them to the point to say, you know what, you have everything you need right now, plus this extra thing that is me, and I'm bringing my genius, my talents to you.
Yes.
What kind of challenges led you to this realization, if you can tell us more about it?
I was just thinking about it before I hopped on this session with you. And what seemed to speak out to me the most was loss. So that was something that was connecting with like my life path. So loss just in terms of experiencing like loss in relationships, whether it be breakups, friendships, or being in a relationship with somebody, going through restructures, redundancy through my job, and facing the potential risk or loss of a job and the fear factor that was involved in that. And then also experiencing loss through immediate family members, sudden loss of like my sister and my dad, which was unexpected to me. So there's something to me that just spoke volumes about loss, that signified something life-challenging for me. And it signified something that helped me to shift my perspective in life, to have a different outlook in terms of putting myself more in the forefront and taking more risks.
Changes have you
Yes.
look inside of yourself and say, I was hiding behind all of these things that I had, which was a title, a job, the travel, a nice identity, and changes. And one of the things that we fear most about changes are losing
Yes.
something, right? That's why we don't realize that we're not going to lose everything, because at the end of the day, we have our core self, we have resiliency, we have acquired talents and knowledge, and as well the will to continue to live and to discover new things.
Definitely.
You definitely had many losses, and a lot of them heartbreaking. It wasn't only material losses, it was personal losses, and material and personal can affect a person on a deeper level. What kind of tools or what kind of support did you find when you were in the, at the bottom of that difficult pit where we find ourselves into, and how did you manage to get out of it? And my other question is, how did that allow you to see the path unfolding in front of you?
Okay, so I think the other one that I forgot to add as well was another life-challenging situation was in relation to my health, which forced me to have another different perspective. So being at risk as well with my own health. And you asked me about the tools and what helped me. Is that correct? Yes. Yeah. So the tools that helped me, if I can go like in a sequential order, is I believe having the right support around me. So regardless of what my circumstances have been in terms of the great achievements that I've had, and also the greatest life-changing and life experiences, what I started to value more were people who were there for me, like friends, family, and external sources, like like-minded communities that were consistent throughout. And I also started to awaken to that not everybody is going to be somebody who's going to be a support system. Okay, because some people are seasonal, they come and go. Okay, so that in itself was a challenging situation, because I also had to be able to let go of that aspect and focus on people who were going to help me move forward, rather than people who were going to, I guess, what comes to mind is sometimes when we are going through like grief and loss, we can choose two paths. So we can choose to be drawn to things that are emotional things, where there's nothing wrong with that, or we can choose a path which is still emotional but going forward. Okay, so the other path that I mentioned earlier is more of like a destructive one, where we find people who mirror us, and misery loves company. That's the word I'm trying to think of. So I came across those paths as well, especially in relation to my own health. And I decided I don't need to be surrounded by misery. I need to find tools which can help me. And because that misery will make me more depressed, will make me more unhappy, and it will make me feel stuck in my life. So what tools did I need? So the tools that helped me, it was my overall well-being. And I'm an existentialist to the core. So psychotherapy was something that I also studied, and about making, choices and being fulfilled in that. So I chose an existentialist psychotherapist throughout like my studies. That was part of like the course remit. But even beyond that, I continued for my own life journey because I was still going through like life changes. And that person to me is somebody who's independent and is a mirror reflection of me. And what they helped me is to challenge myself to overcome some of like the things that I was experiencing in terms of life is unfair. Why is it happening to me? I am angry, I am upset. And to overcome that and look beyond and start to appreciate the life lessons. What was life showing me? And how could I turn that into something that was like a solution? Okay, so I also went beyond in terms of like nutrition because I needed to heal myself through like my chronic condition. And there's different people who showed up in my life who were like twos. So for instance, if a physiotherapist because I needed physio, a nutritionist because I needed that to be able to start healing. And also I'll go back to being surrounded by communities as well, offline or online. They can be positive or negative. So I chose to stick with people who were like-minded, who were looking to change their life circumstances as well. So that's what helped me. And also just believing in, I think there's something that happens when you get into, when you move from an employee mindset to an entrepreneurship mindset. Okay, so that's when you discover your purpose, your reason why. And when you discover that, there's something that changes within you. So my focus became more about setting goals and then challenging myself to overcome my self-limiting beliefs, like being in front of the camera.
I'm with you.
Yes, I feared being in front of the camera. I feared speaking on stage. So everything I visualized, I used that as a vehicle to challenge myself to do something and then to experience the anxiety that went within and then the aftermath. And the more I did that, the more I realized that these were my tools that could help me to fulfill my greater purpose in life. And so everything that I've been doing has been steering me towards that direction. I always think about it, my reason why.
And this also goes back to what you were saying earlier. It's about being discerning. It's not everybody is your friend, not everybody is your enemy or here to get you. But
Yes.
as you evolve, the people that you will encounter, the support that you will encounter will be different. Sometimes at the beginning of your journey, you are in that difficult place where your emotions are running your show, and it's really difficult to get yourself out of there, between feeling sorry for yourself, having compassion for yourself, but at the same time you also need to start planning for your future. So you find an existentialist therapist, and as you continue going through that path of self-healing in a way with discernment, again, you're finding the community, you're finding your passion. I'm going to say the word. What I really like as well in what you said is this idea of mirroring, because it is true that we tend to stick with the people who think like us.
Mm-hmm.
And this can be good when they are challenging us to go further.
Yes.
And this can be really very detrimental for our own personal growth, because all of a sudden we have this confirmation bias that everything we're doing is fine, and we're not challenged again for the next steps, because the saving grace in your case and in all of us is when you have this person who asks you this one question, whether it's yourself or somebody on the outside, and you start thinking, gee, yes, I am settling, I am staying in that hole, whereas I have this whole huge path in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that I really want also to convey as well is that you have used as well this kind of mirroring in a really good way. First, I'm going to go back to what you, the messages that you put on Instagram, because it's really has been a very positive influence in me, where every time you have something that is happening in your life or in your business, you explain what happens, and then there is a whole thing about lesson learned. And I really like that, because it's okay, it happened, but I'm not a passive, you know, kid in a way, where things are happening. There is a reason why they're happening, and this is what they have taught me. And the second reason that I want to mention this is that by acquiring all of this knowledge, you have become a mirror now for other people, including these girls in Malawi. You have become the inspiration for them. You're not telling them what to do, you are giving them tools that you learned from your own path. You want to tell us a bit more about? I'm very fascinated by this, because I really like the idea of stepping outside our comfort zone in a way, and just be there for people who don't have necessarily the same tools as we do where we are.
Yes. And I think also with that, it's easy to feel like we need to rescue people and to help them out, to give them answers. And I used to be that. I used to, being the oldest in my family, I used to want to rescue a lot. And through personal growth and personal development, I've learned, giving the example of like Malawian girls, for instance, is that looking from the outside, you can easily think they're unhappy. I need to rescue them and make them more happier, which it could be quite completely the opposite, that they're content with their life, you know, and all they need is just somebody to voice their views, their opinions. I used to think I need to have a lot of money to be able to achieve certain things. And I found through digital means that you can easily just communicate with somebody across the world, like Malawi as an example, and have a meaningful exchange. And I've learned a lot through some of the girls that I've been able to speak to, you know, virtually, without having to transport myself physically to be in Malawi, that they too have this inner strength that I didn't need to empower them. They had it within themselves. And all they were looking for was somebody who they could also mirror, you know, a reflection of who they already are, to be able to overcome some of those barriers of what they already know is existing in their own lives. So like, for instance, when they're in their community, there's things that may limit some girls to be able to move beyond that, because it's social, it's the cultural norm. There's certain expectations that they need to follow. So they may not see that there's other options out there, although they visualize it, they think it might not become a reality. So when somebody from the outside, like I've had these experiences where there've been people who said to me, you know, you are saying certain things, you're saying that you feel stuck, but they've made me question some of the things and my reality. That was it actually a reality, or was it a narrative I've built in my own mind, my own self-limiting beliefs because of my environment and what I became comfortable in as well. So that's been like my experience so far, is that mirroring is good, like you mentioned, because it gives you that perspective of people who are going to also challenge you. Because the physiotherapists, the psychotherapists, I think we look at those people like, let's say, psychotherapists as an example, that it's a taboo to talk to somebody and to be vulnerable. You know, but what you're doing is, by being vulnerable, you're strengthening your inner core. You know, you're strengthening yourself, because in ordinary circumstances, most of us feel like we need to be strong. You know, we need to show a certain, like on social media or in the workplaces, we need to present as this person and we have no problems. Let's just keep going. And it shows that it's okay to take time out, to have somebody who can also challenge you in a different way. And they challenged me. And sometimes they weren't nice. They didn't say things that I needed to hear. To help me challenge that self-critic, the inner self-critic in myself, that was battling with, I guess, things that made me comfortable, pretty much. Yes,
Expectations. We tend to, as you said, we tend to stay within the narrative that has been given to us by our environment, because that's the only thing that we know, even if we have access to elsewhere. But it's almost a comfort zone, in the sense where if I'm the good girl and I work 80 hours a week, then it's not a problem. Whatever is happening with my body, it's fine. It's a very pleasant identity. And certainly what you are showing us is that you have been a master reinvention person, in the sense where you had that identity of the world traveler, and then things happen and loss happened, and you question yourself, you question your beliefs, you went outside the box by allowing other person not to rescue you, not to save you, but to give you the tools via questioning, via maybe hearing things that didn't feel very, very nice at that point, but that were, okay, am I lying to myself? Am I hiding something from myself that I shouldn't, which actually could be a very nice thing? And this is what you discovered, is being there for other people, and being there and present. And this is also what I would like to convey to the people who are watching, is that you don't need anyone to save you, or there's nothing to be fixed in anyone. But when you start putting yourself out there, when you start having goals for yourself that are challenging and that are for your personal growth and your career growth, then things will start happening. What you need is to open yourself up for these opportunities. And for that, you need to question your beliefs.
definitely. Yes, I strongly believe in that, very much so. And it's one of the key tools for that help in for anybody who wants to become an entrepreneur. This is most entrepreneurs are solution focused. You know, when you switch from an employee mindset to an entrepreneurship mindset, the focus becomes on solutions and accepting that you will experience, I don't like to call it failure, but that's the norm. That's the word that everybody says, failure. So when people hear that, I might fail or I might succeed, and it will become overwhelming. But it's also to look at it just as life lessons. You know, it will happen because there's no such thing as being perfect. You know, there's always going to be blunders, even for myself. You know, there's no means of being perfect. I make so many errors. I'm still learning about myself, and I accept that. I also accept given circumstances which are beyond my control, which is like the pandemic, what we were talking about before. So it's either I fight with it or I steer in a direction which is going to help me to still keep an optimistic outlook. And that takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. And like you're saying, it's about being able to become vulnerable and not view it as being weak, because that's something that in public and in society, it's also perceived as, if you're vulnerable, then you are weak. And we put that on ourselves as well. So yes, so many lessons.
It's a lot of it has to do as well with maturity, and maturity has nothing to do with age, but just seeing yourself not the product or victim of your circumstances, but using your environment and your circumstances to go to a path of self-discovery. And not everybody is going to become an entrepreneur, and for some people this is their path. For others, their mission is to stay in companies and to be quote unquote of service over there as well, because we need everybody on board. We need everybody to find this resilience inside of them.
Definitely, I agree with you, because I don't believe everybody needs to be an entrepreneur, but I also believe that, like you're saying, in any profession that we choose, I think it was Nelson Mandela who said something along the lines of, if you're like a road sweeper, treat that job as though you're a CEO. So it's to value any job that you get. So you're putting the passion into it. So there's also the choice that, because I'm also like reflecting on the experiences that I went through. that when you go through a career, sometimes you might think that you have no choice to be fulfilled in that, and so you just stay stuck within that career path. But there's always an option. So whether it's like learning and development, or something that will help you to embrace something more meaningful, so that you feel like, even if it's not your path at that moment, but at least you have an outlook that will help you to move forward. So if your life-changing circumstances are not happening immediately, what can you start to do to plan for, let's say, 3 months, 6 months, 3 years from now? Because time does fly by very quickly.
Yeah.
So it does not need to happen overnight, but at least something that makes you still want to wake up every day. And we all can be connected to like a reason why, a purpose, no matter what we're doing in life, that can still steer us in that direction, to keep going forward. But it's not also like, it's not ignoring that there's going to be crisis. It's also about accepting that the crisis will happen. And when they happen, it's okay to feel them, to grieve, to go through that grieving process. And look at it like as a soul healing journey.
Yes.
As a growth journey, although it may not seem apparent in that moment, but looking back, there will be a lessons learned process that would have, strengthened you in one way or another.
Wow. Hindsight is one of our best advisors, indeed. Well, thank you so very, very much for this, Chico. It was soul healing for me, and I hope for a lot of the people who are watching this, you give us a lesson in courage, a lesson in being persistent, and a lesson on how to find your inner resources inside of you and outside, without fearing of not being on point, without fearing of failing or of succeeding or what have you, without all of this narrative that we make ourselves miserable with. Before we end, can you tell us where we can find you? And I'll put it as well in the post as well.
I think because you've mentioned Instagram, I also had Instagram on my mind. I think that's the easiest go-to source. That's where I usually start off from. So it's Chico CFM, CHIKO CFM. And like you mentioned, you will include the link. And from there, then you can find other useful resources via my bio in Instagram.
Awesome. And again, people go and watch and look at Chico's posts. They are the most value per minute spent on Instagram, I promise.
No pressure there, my part.
No, because you're very centered, and there's always, every time I read one of your posts, there is at least one thing that I go home with. So 100% useful to me, and I'm sure to a lot of people.
And likewise for you as well. I'm inspired by your posts, and that's how we connected as well. As big as the world is, there's something that connected us, and I do value that, and I do value seeing your post and the contributions that you're also adding. Social value, very meaningful. And thank you for this as well.
Thank you.